we speak about the 210th year in Egypt, the last year of bondage, God performed revealed miracles. They are known as the 10 plagues. Initially, Pharaoh and his sorcerers claimed that the plagues were witchcraft, sorcery. It doesn't prove anything because his sorcerers were able to replicate what Moshe brought about. However, as the plagues progressed, the plague of lice, where the earth turned to lice, the sorcerers and the wise men of Egypt were not able to replicate what Moshe had done. And they go and they say to their king, Etzbe Elokimhi, this is the finger of God. This is clearly God's fingerprint. We can't replicate this. This is not sourced in witchcraft. But again, Pharaoh dismissed them and did not pay any attention. Every miracle had its value, had its purpose. It was display of God's dominion on many levels. On the terrestrial level, on the atmospheric level, and on the celestial level. Why did God display his power on all levels? Paganism is a belief that even if you believe that God created the world, God being a creator, God does not deal with the minutiae of maintaining an existence, but rather he had given over the control to multiple powers, to multiple angels, that each one should oversee another aspect of existence. That is the concept of paganism, of idolatry. But you will not find any one power being the all-encompassing power, dictating every level of existence, terrestrial, atmospheric, and celestial. However, God, at this moment, over a 10-month period, because each plague took place was a week, and then there was a hiatus of 3 weeks before the next plague came into effect. God demonstrated his prowess, his dominion, his omnipotency over every level of existence to prove that every one of these effects are not coming from a detailed power, but rather the all-encompassing power, which is God himself. But factually, this manifested itself and displayed itself within the context of 10 plagues. Why 10 plagues? Why not 9 plagues? Or more than 10 plagues? What is the significance of the number 10? We read in Ethics of Our Fathers, God tested Avram Avinu with 10 tests. Why 10 tests? And only after testing him with 10 tests, and he succeeded, and he rose to every one of the challenges, then he was established ultimately as the eternal patriarch of the Jewish people, promised eternity, that ultimately his progeny will be the chosen people to receive the Torah at Sinai. But why is it 10? As we're asking, why 10 plagues? Rabbeinu Bachya, who's one of the early commentators, explains, we read also in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, Basora Mamoros Nivra Olam, the world was created with 10 utterances of God. You read the story of creation and you count the various utterances of God. There were 10 expressions of God. Through these 10 expressions of God, existence came about. So existence initially manifested itself ex nihilo through the 10 expressions of God. But what now will maintain the effect of those 10 expressions? The objective of creation is alluded to in the first word. Bereshis bor Elokim. Bereshis means in the beginning. However, the Talmud tells us, the Midrash tells us, it should be read, for what it's alluding to is, for the sake of the chosen, God created the world. For the sake of what's the choicest, which is the Torah, God created existence, that should be the playing field for the fulfillment of God's prescription of life. And the people who are chosen to live by that prescription are the Jewish people, who are the choicest people of all humanity. So who will maintain the existence which came through the 10 utterances of God? The Jewish people. Who's the founding father of the Jewish people? Abraham, our patriarch. He had to prove himself to be worthy, to have that spiritual viability and endurance, to be able to create that secure foundation that the eternal people are able to grow and advance from that point going forward. Therefore, he was tested with 10 to correspond to the 10 utterances of God. He was tested with 10 tests. The Jewish people in Egypt became pagans. As pagans, were not qualified to become God's people at Sinai. The most basic prerequisite to become God's people, you must believe in God. How did we come to that level of belief? 10 plagues, 10 revealed plagues, which couldn't have been denied that this was the hand of God. Each plague extracted and purged and brought a level of clarity and elucidated the fact that God is in control. And it wasn't only on an intellectual level, it actually was able to be internalized. That's how impactful and overwhelming the plagues of Egypt were. So the 10 plagues of Egypt, again, manifest themselves within the context of 10 to address and to guarantee the continuum of the 10 expressions of God, which is the basis for existence.